Hey guys, Firebat here. Welcome to the One Night in Karazhan card review number 6. Next up we have Pantry Spider. This is a 3-mana 1/3 beast. Summon a 1/3 spider. Now, this is kind of like a worse version of Echoing Ooze from Naxxramas because you can't buff it and then have the split also be buffed. It's just 2 immediate bodies. So, the stat distribution obviously really poor. For 3 mana you can get, a 4/3 about very decently. So having like this low of attack value, being unable to trade into anything, means it requires to be buffed really to do much of anything. So the only spot where I can really see it having great value is you can Master of Evolution, or you can evolve this and get a better minion and then still have the 1/3 body left over from the extra spider. Assuming the spider costs also 3 mana, it could be decent with Evolve. You get 2 3-mana value bodies, you play Evolve, they both turn into 4-drops, you're happy with your life. So that's like another card with Wicked Witch Doctor that could potentially work in some sort of, Mimi Evolve Shaman that could potentially be alright. But I don't see it having too much potential. Next up, we have Arcane Anomaly. This is a 1-mana 2/1. Whenever you cast a spell, give this minion +1 health. So now, we gotta look at, when evaluating this card, how many spells do you need to reliably trade with the most common 1 and 2 and 3 drops, for example, that people are playing. So it requires about 3 spells to value trade a 3/2 2-drop. So if you play this on turn 1 and your opponent plays a 3/2, you will need to play 3 spells and then you can trade into it and preserve your minion, which is terrible. It's just not good for being able to trade with it. So then the way you gotta be playing. And then you look at all of the 1-drops played competitively, and this card just really can't value trade with any of them because all the 1-drops played competitively for the most part are, Flame Imp, Possessed Villager, Mana Worm, Tunnel Trog, Argent Squire. Those are like the 1-drops that any deck that plays 1-drops really plays. Occasionally you get the Fiery Bats in there, but no one really plays Hunter. And occasionally you get the Abusive Sergeants off curve on turn 1 when people mulligan incorrectly. So most of the time, though, this card's not really going to be taking any sort of value trades against anything in the early game, which the purpose of your 1-drop most of the time is to be able to take value trades and be threatening and generate value, get you ahead on the board, all that sort of good stuff. This card really doesn't allow you to do that. So then you got to think, how do you utilize this card most efficiently? Well, you'd have to snowball it by removing their minion with spells and then building up the health of the minion over time. So they play their 3/2, you Frostbolt it or Wrath it or whatever, and now it's a 2/2, and then they play their 3-drop, and then you use a removal spell on their 3-drop, and now you got a 2/3, and then they play their 4-drop, and then they kill it. So I don't expect this card to see too much play unless you play it in decks with buffs, because at the end of removing your opponent's minions, you also get the side bonus of buffing this guy up, and then when, turn 4 or 5 rolls around, maybe you hit this guy with the Blessing of Kings, maybe you hit it with Mark of the Wild, Mark of Yasarj, Silver Moon Portal, any sort of thing that just jams this guy's 2 attack up to enough to kill a 4-drop, and suddenly you're in business. So I think there is potential in Buffetin/Secret Paladin because it could work quite nicely with the secrets. You got Secret Keeper, Arcane Anomaly. You're starting to get enough 1-drops to make Secret Paladin able to justify playing a bunch of secrets again, and then you got the Mysterious Challenger on 6 for some pretty sick value as well. So I could see Secret Paladin potentially squeezing this guy in there. I think that's probably the best spot for this deck because you're going to need those buff cards. Paladin's all about buff cards. You got all the secrets. I can see a Secret Paladin with Silver Moon's Portal and Blessing of Kings. And then you got 2 Arcane Anomalies, 2 Secret Keepers, and the new Dragons and the Dragon 3-drop potentially. That could become a thing. That's where I could see this seeing play. I don't think it's a terrible card. I just think you need to play it in a class that has buff cards. I think it's playable, but I don't think it's good. I think it's just an alright card. Next up, we have Avian Watcher. This is a 5-mana 3/6 neutral card. Battlecry, if you control a secret, gain +1/+1 and taunt. Alright, without the conditional met for this card, it is very poor. It's a 5-mana 3/6 without taunt. It's a Fen Creeper without taunt. And Fen Creeper with taunt doesn't see any play. So this card is very, very poor without its condition met. If the condition is very difficult to meet on curve. Most classes, secrets are kind of expensive, and most classes, secrets, the turn after you play them, they get activated somehow, besides, Ice Block. And the mana investment you're spending on setting up this guy's conditional isn't made up for by playing this guy, because even with the conditional, the card's not very strong. It's very similar to Fugan from Nax, which was a 5 mana 4/7 and saw almost no play. So other than, the standard, it's a 5 mana 4/7, it then has Taunt, so that's what kind of makes it a little bit better than Fugan, I guess, but I don't think it makes it better enough to justify the conditional there, especially since you have to be playing the Secret out, so you're already losing tempo there, and then after you play the Secret out, you're likely trying to play this guy out, so what are you protecting with Taunt? Just your face? Well, that's not really good. The purpose of Taunt, and when Taunt has the most success, is when it's able to protect another minion, and a lot of times I feel like that's going to be hard to accomplish with this conditional in mind. So I don't think this card is good. I don't think it's going to see any play. Next up we have Moat Lurker. This is a 6 mana 3/3 Battlecry. Destroy a minion, Death Rattle, resummon it. You have some synergy with your own Sylvanas or just general Death Rattles for N'Zoth. Of course, you can use it as removal in emergencies against your opponent's minions, but you kind of have to be ahead to be able to use this as removal against your opponent's minions, because otherwise they're just going to trade any minion they have on board into this guy, killing it and getting their minion back. And you've spent 6 mana to do very, very little. And it dies to almost every removal spell in the game, so very often your opponent's just going to be able to play, Wrath, Backstab plus Dagger, Eviscerate, Frostbolt, Roaring Torch, Fireball, Swipe, Starfire. You get it. There's a lot of cards your opponent can play to remove this guy from the board, retrieving their minion back. So I feel like if this card's going to have any success, you need to be silencing the effect off immediately. You could play Purify, but then you're playing Priest, so I don't recommend that. You can use synergy with Evolve and Master of Evolution and Shaman to potentially, remove the effect of it. And overall, I just think it's too expensive to really see much play. But, the Mimi play of Moat Lurker, remove your opponent's guy, and then play Evolve, get a 7-drop, and just have killed one of your opponents, that's very good. I think that is, that's pretty good. You play a 7-drop for, 7 mana, but it's a random 7-drop. So it's likely going to be just a 7/7. So you play a 7/7 and kill one of your opponent's minions for 2 cards and 7 mana. That combo is pretty good. So, Evolve Shaman. That's what we're working with. I think that's the deck best suited for Moat Lurker. Next up, we have Menagerie Magician. This is a 5 mana 4/4 neutral card Battlecry. Give a random friendly beast, dragon, and murloc +2/+2. So if you just look at the effect here, the effect needs to land on at least 2 creatures to be worth it. Otherwise, it's just like a really bad Houndmaster, and Houndmaster is already questionable on whether or not it can see play or not because the conditional is too hard to meet. Not enough cards to build your deck around this to make the card worth it by any stretch of the means. Houndmaster already struggles with, just beasts. I really don't think there's enough good cards to make, beast, dragon, murloc deck. There's just not enough good dragons, beasts, or murlocs. I think this is more of a troll card. Might see play in some fun decks. I don't think it's going to see any real competitive play. Next up, we have Arcanosmith. This is a 4 mana 3/2 Battlecry summon an 0/5 minion with Taunt. Decent synergy in Shaman. You got, Flame Tongue Totem, Rockbiter, Evolve, and Master of Evolution. We don't know the cost to the 0/5, but if the cost of the 0/5 is decent, it makes Evolve better and Master of Evolution better. It protects the 4 mana 3/2 for Master of Evolution to turn that guy into a 5-drop. So it's got some interesting potential in Shaman there, but in most decks, it's just a worse Sen'jin Shieldmaster, right? You get the 5 health to soak stuff up, but Sen'jin Shieldmaster also is a body that can value trade into things, whereas the attack power of this minion all dies every time it trades into anything. So I don't see it being too great in a lot of decks. Maybe some sort of like aggro deck where you play this and then it protects your early game minions, much like playing Mirror Images does in Tempo Mage a lot of the time, so you can just ignore your opponent's minions and go face while they have something they have to deal with. Generally speaking, though, I think it's too slow for that, and it's not really going to be a great card or see too much competitive play, except for maybe Evolve Shaman, which, as weird as this sounds, as I go through the set and look at all of the, very bad cards, they suddenly all seem that they could potentially work in Evolve Shaman. So maybe that's Blizzard's master plan with a lot of these very unplayable looking cards, is that Evolve Shaman becomes an archetype. Next up we have Arcane Giant. This is a 12 mana 8/8, costs 1 less for each spell you've cast this game. I think that this card is too slow for Tempo Mage. Now a lot of people probably are very confused by that, as the #1 opinion of this deck is jam it in Tempo Mage. It takes up a card slot early, and it's not what you want to be doing late game. So in the later stages of the game as Tempo Mage, the main goal is to burn your opponent's face out. You don't really benefit too much from playing 8/8s, in my opinion. I think you benefit a lot more from using spells to control the board and go face. I think that's the way Tempo Mage is built. It just shifts into that sort of archetype where you play aggressive early game minions and then you start playing spells in the later stages of the game to go face and burn people out. So I don't see this being that great in Tempo Mage. I think you can definitely play it in Tempo Mage. I think it's probably a bit too slow, though. I think there's going to be better options to have in your Tempo Mage deck other than Arcane Giant. It could be okay in Token Druid, though. I could definitely see it being pretty solid in Token Druid. In Token Druid, I feel like you play a lot more spells than you even do in Mage, so you play more spells more often. A lot of the times, most of these Yogg decks, though, by turn 10 when you can play Yogg, you've only played, 7 to 9 spells. So reasonably, this guy's still going to be kind of expensive, but I could definitely see Token Druid being able to just dominate the board the whole game, trade, and then, drop Arcane Giant for 4 mana and do Druid things and then win the game from there. Just because they're way more board-centric than Tempo Mage is and can really benefit from, adding another body at a reduced cost to the board. I could also see Yogg Hunter being able to do this because Yogg Hunter is just all spells in its entire deck and you can win the Joust with Arcane Giant. So you have the ability to draw Arcane Giant and maybe even run 2 King's Elec in your deck, so you can have both Arcane Giants and then your Yogg or whatever, and if you've drawn 1 King's Elec, the odds are you're not going to hit the other King's Elec, so you have a pretty good draw rate of just finding a bunch of card draws attached to a 3/2, which is pretty cool. I could see it also having some potential in OTK Warrior. If you wanted to cut some cards that make the Worgen work, then you could just play this in OTK Warrior instead of Frost Giants or whatever, and do the whole Arcane Giant charge faceless combo and kill people with that. So I could see that being some sort of a low tier funny deck that can work and benefit from this. But I don't think it's going to be too insane of a card. I think the card's playable. I don't think it's a great card. I think it's like a lot of people were really complaining that 12 is too much. I don't think 12 is going to be too much. I think 12 is pretty alright. Like the card will be okay. It's not going to be crazy. So I like where this card's at. I think it's a really cool design as well. Anyway, that's it for all of the cards from me. Thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate everyone that tunes into my card reviews and all the feedback that I get. I try and read all of this comments on Reddit and YouTube and Twitter and what have you. So I appreciate that. Thanks everybody for watching my card reviews. I look forward to the release of One Night in Karazhan. It's going to be awesome. Feel free to subscribe, what have you, for more content from me. I'm always releasing videos talking about random stuff and showing gameplay and what have you. Soon to come, I'm going to have, my top 10 favorite cards of the set and my, top 10 least favorite cards of the set, I guess. So we'll get those out there as soon as we can. I appreciate it. Take care, guys.
With me, come inside. Meet your friends at the door. We've got a feast.